Right guys, welcome. I'm going to be continuing the workshop makeover, but there has been a small change of plans regarding the order that I'm going to be doing things. I was originally going to carry on with the miter station, but like an idiot, I miscalculated the amount of plywood that I'd actually need for the drawers. So I'm waiting for a delivery. So in the meantime, I'm going to make a start on the outfeed stroke assembly table. Right, so I really didn't want to be building the table before I'd made the drawers for the miter station, emptied the cabinets at the end of the workshop and ripped those out to give me more room, but due to the mess up with the amount of materials, I've got no choice. So once I'd worked out what lengths I needed, I could then use a miter saw to chop them down to their final length. I'm so glad I've got this new miter station because cutting these 3 metre lengths down would have been a lot harder on my old cabinet. So with all the pieces now cut to the correct lengths, I can start to assemble it. I'm starting out by making 2 rectangular frames measuring around 3 foot by 4 foot. I'm not going to be using any fancy joinery or glue on this project. I'm simply butting the pieces up together, drilling some pilot holes, countersinking and driving in screws. So once I'd finished the first frame, I then realised it'd be a lot easier to clamp the pieces together while I drove in the screws. So although I didn't have a clamp long enough, I was able to use 2 clamps and that made it a lot easier. So to attach the top and bottom frame to the legs, I'm going to be using half lap joints, but instead of notching out a single 2x4, I'm going to be doubling up the 2x4s and just leaving an area clear for the frames to sit in, and this should make for a quite strong joint. So now I can start attaching the legs. I'm just flushing it up with the end of the frame, using a square to check that it's plumb, and then driving in some screws to hold it in place. So now that the base is nearly done, I can cut the lower shelf down, and for that I'm using some 18mm ply. So I can check to make sure it fits, and then take it out and add some supports. Now I'm just adding some supports just to add a little bit of strength and rigidity to the table. Not sure where my head was at this point, because I wanted to add 2 supports, and I worked out what the spacing should be to get them all evenly spaced, and then went ahead and marked in completely the wrong place, and it wasn't until I'd actually fitted one side that I realised I'd messed up, but thought to hell with it and just carried on anyway. So now I can put the base in position. I did have to trim a fraction off one end just so it sat flush all the way round. So when I've built benches and that in the past, I've normally assembled the frame and then notched out the bottom shelf around the legs to fit it in place. This time I decided, rather than notch it out, I'd just sit the inner part of the legs directly on top of the bottom shelf, and that saved me the job of having to cut round the legs. And then the top frame just sits inside the legs, and I can screw that into place. I then fitted some supports on the top frame, equally spaced this time, and then I could add the top. So because this is just an assembly table for the shop, I was originally going to actually screw it from the top down to the frame, but then I realised when I built my lean-to, I saved all the bits I cut off the joist hangers, and by clamping them to a block of wood and bending them over, I've now got some L brackets which I can fit underneath and screw from the bottom. That way the top of the table is kept nice and clean. The last thing to do was check how strong it was, and it's really solid, which is good. Right, so that's the basic assembly stroke outfeed table complete. As I said in a previous video, I wanted to build something that gave me slightly bigger surface area to work on, and I also wanted to make it in a way that I could add to it as time went on. So I'm not going to round the edges over or anything, because I'm not sure whether I'm going to be adding some trim. I mean, I could trim all this if I wanted to, just to cover up the cheap timber. Underneath, I'm probably going to box in eventually, probably 2/3 under there, and I could either have cupboards or drawers or a mixture of both, just to store some bigger items. Obviously at the end where I'm going to be putting the table saw, I need enough room behind that to get the hose. If I do put trim all the way round, I can add more thickness along the side just to fix the trim to. The one mistake I made, my other saw table sat at a height of 35.5, so when I was working out the lengths that I needed, I forgot to allow for the thickness of a sheet of 80mm ply, so it's a little bit under 3/4 of an inch higher. Not sure that's going to be a major problem. Even if it was, I could just cut an inch off the bottom of the feet, and it just means the lower shelf would be even closer to the floor. Right, hope you enjoyed that one, guys. Next week I'll be back on the mitre station build, making the drawers, dust hood, etc. If all goes to plan, that is. So if you liked the video, don't forget to smash the like button, leave a comment, share with your friends. And if you're not yet subscribed and you like DIY, tool reviews and woodworking videos, then subscribe, tap the little bell icon, and you'll never miss a video. So until the next one, stay safe and cheers for watching.